Heading into the home stretch, are voters finally engaging on the race for governor? Hey everybody, it's Reporters Roundtable. I'm David Cruz. Our new season begins with the governor's race heating up, and voters, it seems now, starting to pay a little bit of attention. The panel for our season opener includes Colleen O'Day of NJ Spotlight News, Daniel Hahn from Politico NJ, and Charles Stile, columnist for The Record and USA Today Networks. Panel, good to see you all. Hope you had a nice summer. It's go time now in the governor's race. Is it, Colleen?
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, we've only got about 7 weeks left, maybe even a little bit less, until Election Day. Ads are running if you happen to watch TV or cable TV. The ballots are about to go out. Some counties have already mailed out the vote by mails, and tomorrow, Saturday, is the deadline for doing that. So if they're not paying attention yet, people should certainly be starting to pay attention.
Any evidence that anyone's paying attention other than us?
Yeah, boy, that's a good question, right? I mean, I think that we live in this kind of bubble where we are consumed. I speak for, I think, the two of us, maybe everybody who is on today, by politics. But I think if you did go out and ask the man on the street, he might say, or she might say, there's an election, or I don't know who's running, or
Get out of my face.
Yeah, he might say that too, yeah.
Dan, what are you seeing out there? Are any voters telling you to get out of their face, or are they saying, gee, I'd like to know more about this election?
Well, no one has told me to get out of their face yet. I think I will say that I agree with Colleen's analysis that the four of us on this panel may be a little bit more plugged in than the average New Jersey voter, because I think that the axiom that all politics is local has been kind of flipped on its face for a while now, and all politics is national. So I think that you have people who are more engaged in the assassination of Charlie Kirk rather than debates around affordable housing in New Jersey, or Jimmy Kimmel not hosting a show anymore versus what to do about property tax relief programs. So I think that's going to be the dueling competition for a while, trying to engage voters on state issues when national politics, especially in the Trump era, just dominates so much.
Yeah, Charlie, is it starting to build a little bit? Do you see out there?
I think so. I mean, my views may be skewed somewhat because I live in Princeton and in Mercer County. You have a lot of government workers, people tied to politics, and they're asking me a lot of questions like, well, how's the race going? What do you know about Chitterelli? What is Mikey's record on this? And there is an appetite, a demand for more information. Whether that's the kind of reaction you're getting statewide is really hard to measure. But I think with the television ads, the first wave of them, I think I think that's starting to cause some people to pay attention. I think Dan's right, though. All this bombardment of national news has kind of obscured all that.
Yeah, Dan, you wrote about Chitterelli courting black voters at New Hope Baptist Church in Newark, of all places. How's that going for him?
Well, addendum in Elizabeth, New Jersey. But I think I will say that you've really seen a push from Chitterelli to try to appeal to Black and Hispanic voters. And traditionally, these have been core parts of the Democratic constituency. But as we've seen in recent years, especially in the 2024 election, these are communities that are much more open to voting Republican or voting for Trump. That doesn't mean that Chitterelli or Republican will win them outright, but simply siphoning away enough of those voters can really make the general election competitive. So what I saw in Elizabeth this past Sunday was Jack speaking to a church there, a congregation, and he was promising diversity within his cabinet. He was promising more contracts for state contracts for minority-owned businesses if he's governor. And I think that's a really interesting contrast, given the Trump administration, national Republicans really cracking down on so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Well, I think what we're seeing is Ciattarelli kind of trying to take a different approach to that and trying to court these voters.
Yeah, selective rhetorical approaches. Charlie, this is the guy who said his last campaign was too white, but is there any
Right.
evidence that it's been really less white this go around?
That's hard to say. I do think, though, the Ciattarelli campaign there is trying to exploit a divide. There are the black voters who have, and the older generation of black voters who might be lured to a Republican message on social issues, socially conservative issues. People remember the black community, the older black community opposed gay marriage,
Yeah.
and issues, cultural issues like that here in New Jersey. He's appealing to the business community. The challenge for Mikey Sherrill, who does lead, does hold a substantial lead, somewhere between 55 and 69%, if depending on which polls, among black voters, is she's going to need to bring out more of the progressive base, the socially activist community, the community that finds Trump appalling on so many issues,
Yeah.
and as a sort of an existential threat to everything that the civil rights and activist community has worked for generations.
Colleen, I didn't see Mikey Sherrill at the Montclair Jazz Fest last weekend. Maybe she was there, but she needs a surge from the kind of progressives in the People's Republic over there, no?
Yeah, she sure does. I can tell you she was near me on Saturday, at least. She was in
Okay.
Clinton, walking around talking to business owners, taking some pictures at the beautiful Red Mill there. So I know she was there. She was up in Warren County. She does need a push from progressives, and I'm not sure that there is a great enthusiasm
Yeah.
among progressives for her at the moment, because she is not the Ras Baraka or the Steve Fulop, who were the progressive Democrats in the
Yeah.
primary. She's kind of more of a moderate Democrat, and so that's going to be a little bit hard to, I think, motivate those folks. Although, I do think that, as Charlie was pointing out, people do, if they are very anti-Trump, I think they recognize that they don't want a Republican to win the New Jersey governorship.
What do you
I
think
do
of this?
think they will come out for her.
What do you think of this what do you think of this Quinnipiac poll out that has her up 8 points, Colleen? About where you expected?
Yeah, so it's pretty well tracking what we've been seeing. There have been three, maybe four polls since
Yeah.
since the fall season, even though it's not fall, has begun. Just be aware that there is a 4 plus or minus almost 4
Yep.
point margin of error. So her lead could be as small as 4 points, as large as 12 points. There
Yeah.
are some positives for Ciattarelli in that poll, in that his voters were much more enthusiastic, at least had high enthusiasm for him than those who had great enthusiasm for Sherrill. And he also was leading on the issue of property taxes, which we know is constantly one of, if not the biggest issue that New Jerseyans complain about.
Yeah. Charlie, you had a piece in the paper this week about Mikey Sherrill. What'd you find about that campaign?
Well, that was just really, she was staging a press conference about transparency,
Right.
and but she was giving us a 12-minute untransparent window to ask questions about it. And to me, it was sort of representative. It's not just Mikey Sherrill, but it seems like all campaigns now are so tightly managed. There's very little opportunity for give and take with the press to flesh out some of the answers. They're all worried about how their answers are going to be perceived and distorted on social media. And as I pointed out in the column, it took 12 minutes. I mean, Chris Christie gave you one answer in 12 minutes and or cleared his throat in 12 minutes. It's just a new form of engagement. And I think it does a disservice to voters. And I think from talking to Colleen earlier, she saw or witnessed the same sort of attempt at press management with Ciattarelli.
Yeah, we might as well go there because it's been something we've been talking about in our little reporters sewing circles about how we've been getting the cold shoulder from the governor's campaigns. We've been trying to get them on Chatbox. One side says the other candidate is getting a free ride, so they won't let their candidate talk to us unless the other side lets their candidate talk to us, and the other side won't talk to us because their candidate maybe is prone to blunders. Is this where we are in 2025?
I think it's a flimsy excuse. The reality is they want to minimize discussion with I would say mostly the legacy media as much as possible. So they use this. The other side didn't talk, so I'm not going to talk. That's just smokescreen.
Yeah. Colleen, are you getting your calls returned or your requests fulfilled?
Well, I can get calls returned from press spokespeople. As for speaking with the candidate, again, I got a couple questions with Cheryl because I went to walk with her around Clinton the other day at the event that Jack Ciattarelli had to advance his affordability agenda. As I was speaking with Charlie, we got 4 or 5 questions in, and then we're told that, that was it. And I happened to bring up Charlie's column and say, hey, Mikey Sherrill gave 12 minutes. Can't you do better than that? And so we did get a few more questions in. Yeah. But in terms of being, and Charlie and I and you, David, are kind of old souls here. You used to get a half hour, an hour-long sit-down. And 4 years ago, I had an hour-long sit-down with Jack Ciattarelli. And, I've asked for similar things from both campaigns and haven't gotten them. So I think that they think, and maybe they know, that they can, get away with this, not talk to the press, do more social media. Look at Tom Kean. Tom Kean Jr., he won re-election last year doing very, very little, very few public events and almost no press interviews.
Yeah, this is me and Charlie and Colleen yelling at a cloud. All right, let's move on to the highlight of the week. Video-wise, Senator Cory Booker and FBI Director Kash Patel going at it before the Senate Intelligence Committee. Here's the big finish from them.
That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is my time.
I follow you on your social media posts that tear this country apart.
To address your falsehoods.
Oh, you can try all you want
in this country.
To not take responsibility for what you have said.
Time.
Sir, you're making a mockery of this committee. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over. The people of New Jersey tell me what my time is. You can't lecture me.
You can tell me my time's over.
You may be the charge of the
I'm not going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you,
Mr. Chairman.
I'm not afraid of you.
I'm not afraid of you. Colleen, Booker the Avenger or more Cory Booker Theater Company?
I think it's both. I do think that he, in his heart, feels those things. I think that he is passionate about his feelings about the country, about divisions in the country. We've certainly seen him, 25 plus hours speaking on the floor. But certainly it helps his name recognition. It helps his profile for what I think many of us believe to be a future run for president.
Yeah. Dan, you think this works for Booker?
Yeah, so I think that this really serves 2 roles, as Colleen just mentioned. This really helps build Booker's profile and ahead of an anticipated 2028 presidential run. And also, I feel like there's this larger debate right now of how do Democrats fight back against the Trump administration. They're in the minority in Congress, they're locked out of power. what can you do when you're in the minority to still try to be a representative for your constituents? I think one of the most important things that someone can do when they're locked out of hard legislative power is to use the power of the bully pulpit to be able to use their voice to express an idea. And I think that's really what you're seeing Booker doing here. He's going all Jersey on the FBI director. And that's his way of saying, like, look, this is how I'm pushing back against the Trump administration, which also feeds into the number one point I mentioned, building Booker's presence ahead of a 2028 presidential run.
Yeah. Civility tour, John Bramnick and Joe Cryan, bipartisan senators, going out there and on college campuses and asking people to be more civil to one another. Charles, now more than ever, I guess, given events this year, we need this.
Yeah, that's a nice. Sounds a little quaint, but I'm
yeah, it is a little quaint, I think. But let me ask you this:
doesn't sound.
Have you? I've never really thought about political violence covering campaigns or town halls. It's been down 30 years. Is it a little different out there right now, Charlie? The feeling?
I think so. I am looking over my shoulder a little bit, and I haven't gone to full disguise mode yet, but
yeah.
I do feel like I felt this actually a couple of years ago during the parental rights debate at one event. I felt besieged.
Yeah.
But this has happened on and off there throughout my career, going back to the old Trenton Times days. But this is different, and usually people would come up to you and who disagreed with you, but they would do it in a kind of an amiable, I see you, I know you, but I don't agree with you, but I read you occasionally. You get that kind of thing. But I've had people come up to me with their fangs bared. So
yeah,
fangs baring, excuse me. So
Dan, I get you, Charles. Dan, how about you? How much is security part of your mental checklist?
Well, I could speak anecdotally. When I was with Chitterelli at a church in Elizabeth on Sunday, you would have thought that POTUS and VPOTUS were there because there were drones flying overhead. There were police decked out in tactical gear. They had one of those police trucks that almost kind of looks like a SWAT or FBI truck. And was definitely a level of security that I was not generally used to, but I think is relevant given the times that we're in concerns of high instance profiles of political violence.
Yeah. Colleen, I remember a brief period there during the Christie administration when his town halls had extra security. I felt then that was a little bit of theatrics, but now you can't be too careful.
I mean, you certainly can. It's obviously Charlie Kirk is in the news, but you had lawmakers shot or killed out in Minnesota. You had Esther Salas, the judge's son, killed here in New Jersey. It's just, it's a terrible situation. I mean, as a democracy, people are supposed to be able to speak to one another and speak freely to one another. That's a whole other story, right? But we're supposed to be able to converse and work out our differences through words, certainly not through violence and deadly gunshots.
Yeah. What about the debate this weekend? The first full debate between these two. Who needs it more, Dan?
I think that you really need to see, obviously, since we're seeing in the polls that Chitterelli is running a little bit behind, he's trailing, still a competitive race, but right now Mikey Sherrill's definitely the favorite. I think Chitterelli needs to pull off a strong performance or try to capture a moment that could be that becomes a moment or a theme within the campaign. I think what I'm watching out for is how closely does Chitterelli still align himself with Trump? That was obviously a very big theme in the primary, still a big theme in the general election. But we've seen some instances of him suggesting that he's, I wouldn't say distancing himself from Trump, but he said, if a situation comes to it, I'm willing to call the president to tell him I disagree with him.
Yep.
Which is a slight shift from when he was saying, there's not a single thing I could think of which I disagree with Trump.
Yeah. Charlie, does Mikey Sherrill need to jersey herself up a little bit?
Yes, and I agree with everything that Dan said. Those were excellent points. But yes, I think there's some questions about her ability to, fight fire with fire in public. I mean, there's an ad that the Chitterelli campaign has repurposed her appearance on the Marsha Kramer show, where she couldn't answer a question, fundamental
Both of them
question about
both of them have done that a lot. Highly edited material. Let me get Colleen here. 30 seconds, Colleen. What does she got to do in this debate?
I think she's got to show that she can think on her feet, that she can fire back at Chitterelli. You know, he's been doing this for
ready.
12 years. She's got to show that she can answer a question quickly and make a point, not just kind of wander.
All right. On that note, Colleen O'Day, Daniel Hahn, Charlie Stahl, good to see you all. Thanks for coming on with us today. That is Roundtable this week. For those of you keeping score at home, you can now watch the Roundtable stream first on the YouTube platform Fridays at 1 p.m., then on your TV Fridays at 6:30 p.m., and Saturdays and Sundays at 6 p.m. and 10 a.m. respectively. I'm not going to repeat this, so write it down. We're on Blue Sky now. Follow us there at David Cruz and Jay. One more reminder, dear viewer, public television and programs like this one rely on more than just your moral support. If you believe in public television, you have to help us fight for it. Because if you leave it to politicians to support, well, you see what that gets us. I'm David Cruz. For all the crew here at Gateway Center in downtown Newark, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.